Hey guys, we're going to be doing a shootout of sorts today. The shootout in question will be between a stock nut that is found on these two particular guitars in this bass and the brass upgraded nut that you can get on eBay through the Handle Axe Masters, and I will leave a link in the description box below so that you can go and check his store out. He was nice enough. I reached out to him to send me some samples, and my intention was to do the shootout and send them back, and he actually let me keep them. So thank you, Harry, if you're watching this. I really appreciate it. He did, however, send me two that I will not be able to use. One of them is a Jazz Fender style bass guitar, 4-string, and the other one is an Epiphone or a Les Paul style compensated brass nut. I will be giving those away on the Facebook page. If you'd like to head over there, that's facebook.com/Home Studio Simplified. Within the next couple of days, I will be giving those away. So to lay the groundwork for exactly what we're going to be listening to here, these are DI sources using a Mogami 6-foot cable into the Scarlett 6i6 into my DAW. And then there's no processing done whatsoever on these tracks. These are completely dry tracks. This first portion that you're going to hear is just an E chord, and I'm letting it ring out to try to see how much sustain you will gain or lose from upgrading to a brass nut. So let's go ahead and listen to our first audio example. And this is the Telecaster style guitar with the stock nut. And here we go. Okay, so quite a bit of sustain there. Now we're going to listen to a little ditty here. And this is just a real simple chord progression, E to a C. Okay, so that was just DI straight into the 6i6, nothing at all done to it. And now we're going to listen to the brass nut. All right, so yet again, quite a bit of sustain there. I will let you be the judge as to whether you feel like that it gained or lost sustain. As for now, here in a minute, we're going to go through these and look at the frequency analyzers and see exactly what it's adding to or taking away. Now let's listen to the little ditty, and then I'm going to try to bounce back and forth between these two chord progressions and kind of give you a little bit of an example here as to the differences back to back, and I know sometimes that helps me to hear it better. And then when all this is said and done, we'll go down here to the comp where I have level matched the gain on these so that you're not being tricked by volume increase or decrease. And then we'll listen to the E chord that's rang out back to back, and we'll go through that whole process. But as of right now, let's listen to these two. So we'll begin with the stock nut. Okay, so there are definitely some sonic differences there that I'm picking up on. Yet again, I'm not going to try to sway you in any one direction, but we will go ahead now and listen to the comp. This first portion that you're going to hear, this will be the stock nut, and then it will go to the brass, stock, brass, stock, brass, stock, and end on the brass. Okay, so I hope you could hear the differences there. I know I definitely could. One of the things that I will make mention of, though, is because this is not a reamped source or anything like that, there is going to be a little bit of difference in the playing of it. So although this is not a, true bona fide shootout, it's at least going to help you to hear the differences. So we'll move on now to the Les Paul, and we'll listen to the stock nut first. Okay. And now we'll listen to the little ditty. Okay, so that was just the stock nut. Let's take a listen to the addition of the brass compensated nut. Okay, now one thing that I did notice, especially when changing to the Les Paul style guitar, is that it seemed like it actually gained some volume. Okay, now let's try to listen to those little ditties back to back. We're going to start with the stock nut, and then we'll switch to the compensated brass nut. All right, and much like before, we are going to go ahead and listen to a compilation of the two together. And these have been volume matched because I realized that there was a gain, at least I felt like, in the... Sorry about that. There was a gain there in the volume. So these have been volume matched to be within 0.5 dBs. So yet again, it's going to start with the stock, brass, and so on. We'll end with the brass. So yet again, I tried to be as consistent as possible, and although there is a little bit of inconsistency there, I think you can definitely hear, at least I can hear, that after the addition of the brass compensated nut, it feels like the tone gets a little fuller on the Les Paul, and it felt like it got a little richer on the Telecaster as well. Definitely not what I expected. I expected it to be more tinny sounding, and what I ended up getting was actually more low end, is what I felt like. But we'll go ahead and do the frequency analyzation here in a minute, and we'll see exactly what it's adding or taking away, because I haven't even looked at that myself yet on these. Now let's listen to the bass yet again. This is just the top E string ringing out, and then we're going to go through a bass line. This is the stock nut. Okay, now let's go ahead and listen to the brass nut. Okay, so what I'm hearing there is it seems like the bass got a little bit more clarity to it, and it picked up a little bit more low end yet again. Let's go ahead and listen to the bass line here, back to back. Kind of hard to hear there. I do apologize for that. I felt like that one was at least a little more consistent, though. Sounded pretty much just like the other one. In fact, my timing was almost dead on, and I wasn't using a click. So these here, I also did not have to volume match these. The volume going in was actually the same. So now, let's listen to the comp, and this will be the E string ringing out, beginning with the stock nut, going to the brass, stock, brass, and ending on the brass nut. Okay, so on that there, I feel like what I'm hearing is just a little bit more sustain on that low end, and it seems like it got a little rounder, but yet somehow gained clarity. I keep using that word because that's just what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a lot of clarity that's being added. Whereas up here, especially on this Les Paul, it sounded like it got not necessarily muddy, but it got thicker and richer. And then on this Telecaster, it did sort of the same thing there, but it feels like on this bass, it's actually gaining more clarity. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our analyzers here, our frequency analyzers. And I'm going to try to do this in a way to where I can actually keep these up here. Okay. We're going to start with the Tele. We're going to use the stock nut first. Okay, so looks like we got some peaks here around 364, 9763 there. Okay. Now let's take a look at the Tele brass nut. Okay. Oops. Let me take that hold off there. Yeah, it looks like with that there, at least from what I'm seeing, it looks like it actually kind of rounded things out and made things a little bit more consistent there, a little bit more smoother. Let's go to the little ditty here. And I apologize. What I was going to try to do was actually have the stock nut on the front and the brass nut on the back because you can underlay this, but I could not figure out how to do that. They were explaining it, and I was trying to follow, but I could not. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and reset this. Portion that you're seeing right here is the average. What you're seeing behind it is the actual real-time frequency. Okay, so that's what we had on the stock nut there. And, you know, some of this right here might not really make that big of a difference to you. I'm just kind of, I get a little geeky on this stuff. And so, oops, there we go. So that's why I'm looking at the frequency analyzer here. Let's go ahead and listen to the brass nut and see what it does here. Let me start that over. kind of gimp that up there. Okay, so one thing that I'm seeing right off the bat here, these little areas, these are average peaks. These little areas were not necessarily sticking up on the previous one, which means that there's more harmonics. It seems like that's being added in the lower regions here. Looks like in the mids. So, and from what I can see too, it looks like exactly like what I said. It's rounding off those bass frequencies, making them sound more round. All right, let's go ahead and take a gander then at the Les Paul style. Okay, so it looked like on that there, on the stock nut, we're getting some peaks yet again around those mids, 391 here, and around 1,000 kilohertz. Let's go ahead and take that off a hold. Let's see what the brass compensated nut does for the sound. That's interesting. So yeah, it definitely looks like it's adding some low end that was not present before, and it's also adding more harmonics yet again, which is what you would expect a brass nut to do. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bass guitar now. Okay, so let's see where's our major. Okay, so we got 871 here, 1300, and of course, yeah, right there in your fundamental area, 87 hertz. All right, let's check out what the brass compensated nut has to do for it. Look at how round that is there. It is literally rounding it off. Yeah, it's definitely doing exactly what I thought it was doing. See, there's extra harmonics that are being added, and it's right around the region where our ear picks up a lot of things. And you can see right here where it's leveled out the fundamental to be in a wider area. It seems like instead of just concentrated around 80 hertz, it's more evenly distributed. And so that would definitely account for what I keep hearing, which is that clarity that's being added. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope this has been helpful. Yet again, I will be posting a link to in the description of this video to go on eBay and check these out for yourself. Not going to necessarily say what the current price is now. I know whenever I purchased one before, they ranged from $10 to $15. Like I said, I will be giving 2 of these away, one for a Fender Jazz bass style, and then another for a Gibson or an Epiphone Les Paul style. And you can find that there on facebook.com/Home Studio Simplified. So until next time, guys, keep rocking on. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.
I will be just like the light of the sun, shining brightly. You are